Hi, I'm Sarah Beecham,
And I am Adam Anderson.
and welcome to the Security Awareness Show, where we dive deep into the world of security awareness training with security awareness professionals. We're super excited to have Lauren Zink, Manager of Culture Awareness and Training at Indeed, not to mention a Power 100 Women in Cybersecurity. Hey, Lauren, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So, Lauren, do you mind telling us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your background, and what you're doing in your current role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the cybersecurity realm for almost 15 years now. I actually went to school to be an educator. I was a teacher for a number of years and an adjunct professor at a local college, where I was afforded the opportunity to take courses for free. And so I took courses in Homeland Security, information technology, computer networking, completely out of my realm of, what I had gone to school for. But I found that I was way more intrigued by that than what I went to school for. And a position opened at a local company that was titled Security Awareness Analyst. And I remember thinking, what does that mean? It looked like it was a little bit of training, a little bit of security, married my two passions together. I applied thinking there's no way anyone's calling me back. Got the call back, went to the interview. I remember also Googling what is security awareness, and there was nothing because back in 2011. I mean, really,
Yeah.
there were a few people that were doing it at that time. So I thought there's no way I'm getting it. Ended up landing that job, did it for a number of years at a really large corporation, dabbled a little bit in vulnerability management, incident response, a little bit of policy development, but always found my way back to that human side. I think that's really where my passion is. It took a long time at the beginning stages for me to really feel like there was a path forward for me in that, and that it wasn't just that introductory level analyst position, but there was other opportunities. And I think I've seen that kind of grow as I've been in the field, which is awesome to see. And I hope that it goes even further. But where I'm at now is leading a team doing culture awareness and training, and I love doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I love that the word culture and what you just said. Can you maybe riff a little bit about culture and the grand scheme of things? Because I think most of us in the security awareness training biz are like, we're going to count clicks and you should send phishing simulations and blah, blah, blah. And one of our big, the drums we're pounding on is there's a little bit more. And the hard problems are sometimes the hardest thing to measure when you're doing success. And I just can't wait to hear you talk about culture.
Yes, absolutely. So most of my positions were titled security awareness something or another, and I still have security awareness in my title. But one of the things that I kind of asked is, can we add the culture aspect into that? Because I think that we're going beyond that awareness to understanding what those human risks are. How are we changing behavior? And in order to change behavior, we have to control the culture and what that looks like and what that means to people. And understanding the culture is one of the first things that I try to do when I go into an organization is, what do people already have a baseline knowledge of? What do they have an appetite for? And how do they best like to be communicated with? So when I combine like three of those things, I tend to understand where they are at as a company and where those individuals are at from a security awareness and culture and behavior perspective. And then I leverage that not only as a baseline, but year over year to make sure that we're moving the needle.
How cool is that? That's pretty
So
cool.
cool. And it looks like you've really made some progress in development of different types of programs within organizations you've been in. I'd love to hear more. It looks like you've done a security champions program. I'd love to hear more about that. Is that similar to an ambassadors program? What does that look like inside of your organ, or maybe not your organization, but any organization you've been at?
Yeah, so when it comes to champions, I feel like there's two sides to a champions program, and it depends on who you're talking to and who you're working with. So, champions, ambassadors, liaisons, whatever you want to call them, I've heard them called a number of things. Superheroes. And the more creative you can get, the better. But there's what I typically see is there is a technical side of that where you're working a lot of times with like the developers and the coders, the people that are committing code within your environment. And that's very technical in nature. And maybe that's something more so that the security awareness team helps support with subject matter experts. Whereas like a generalized security awareness and culture champion program is geared more towards anyone within the organization, whether it's HR, finance, Joe Schmo over wherever can be part of this. They don't have to have the technical knowledge. They don't necessarily have to have a security background. What we do want is someone that is passionate about it and wants to participate in it. And then we want them to serve as an extra set of kind of eyes and ears, but also a voice. So they're bringing not only information in, but they're helping us take information out. Really successful when you don't have maybe the resources to have a large security culture and awareness program. You can leverage those points to do a lot of the things that maybe you don't have the bandwidth for. But even if you have a large team, it's still incredibly successful to be able to stand up that champions program.
So what are the do's and don'ts when you're starting one of those programs? Like the non-technical side, because I feel very comfortable with the nerd side of the house, right? A business analyst, blah blah blah. But when you're approaching a population of people who might be a little bit nervous, what are some lesson learned that you might be able to share for people who are like, I want to do a champions program? That sounds totally cool.
Yeah, in terms of building one out, I think it's really just going out and, like we do with a lot of other aspects of the program, is selling what you're doing, making it entertaining, putting things in there where not only are we getting something out of it as a security program, but you as an individual are getting something out of it too. It's something for them to put on their resume. It's something for them to be able to gain knowledge that they can leverage not only within the company, but also maybe in their personal lives. A lot of what we found that people are excited about when it comes to the Champions program too is like, they kind of get to see a little bit of like peeking behind the curtain and know what's going on with the security program and understand it a little bit better. But where we found it's most impactful is they said, I actually, through this, I learned something and I took it to my grandmother, or I took it to my child, and I said, this is something that I learned and I'm able to apply it at home. So I really think that that's been incredibly helpful. We've even leveraged it to the point where if we have some kind of training platform that we can give to them, that if they wanted to pivot into security, we would work with them, whether it's like job shadowing or something like that, but it gives them something else to be excited about, to be a champion. Because again, it's not just about us getting something out of it. We also want them to get something out of it as well. And then you can make it fun with things like badges or email signatures or t-shirts. We've, seen many different things that have worked, but that's kind of how we've made it successful.
It is funny. It's the incentivization. Oh, wow. Words are hard.
You nailed it. You got it. We got there together. It's all good.
That's right. That's right. I think the very base level of security awareness has been carrot or stick, right? And so are we punishing our user? Are we rewarding them? But I think your approach is taking it to the next level, where how can we maybe offer that carrot, but for a next level security initiative? It's not just training, it is going beyond training to that cultural behavioral shift, the water cooler chat.
All right. So what I'm curious about is, great, people want to do this. There's got to be somebody who is focused on running that program. Is that your job? Is there somebody else that works for you? What's that lucky person? What's that look like?
The great question. The way that I've done it a couple different ways. So at some companies, I've been the one that's been running it, but I think it's really dependent on what kind of support do you have to build out your team. The best program I've seen is when I was able to hire someone that they were solely dedicated to building out a champions program. Wow. And they had multiple iterations. They built out this extensive program plan. I found that to be a lot more successful because you have someone that's fully dedicated. Just like when you talk about building out a security awareness and culture program, a lot of times you see maybe one person is dedicated half their time to it, and then you have like one person over in policy that's giving 10 to 15%, and someone giving, and that's not how it's going to be the most effective. But I also understand that there's a lot of budget constraints, time constraints. But the most effective, I think, is having someone solely dedicated to that, because you can really do so much with the Champions program. It's just if you have the time to do it, and the bandwidth and the resources and the budget.
That leads to a really good question. We work with people every day who, and you do too, I'm sure, actually, where budget constraints are so real right now. Teams are having to be more agile, pivoting more. And I'm curious, what is prioritized in a security program, in your opinion, to meet the budget, but still address cultural needs around security?
That's a really good question. And I think it's also difficult to answer in terms of, it depends on the company. It depends on the size. It depends on the direction that your CISO and the security team want to go. So I don't think that it's a, one size fits all approach. I would say right now, there's a lot of things that you can do in-house, but that also takes a lot of time away from other things that you can do. So if you can figure out a way to have a hybrid approach to things and stretch as much as you can, that's the way that I would suggest, going. But when it comes to prioritizing things, I think that just depends on what are the goals of the organization, what's the maturity of your program, and what is the appetite for those individuals, what do they want to learn, and how do they want to learn.
So it seems like you're pretty dang good at teaching people how to step into this world. I know that you've done some LinkedIn learning, and can you kind of maybe walk through what was the motivation to start putting that kind of content out there and trying to reach beyond kind of your day-to-day in order to save the world from the clickings?
Absolutely. No, actually, I still tell everyone when they ask me about this, I remember the content manager reaching out to me and being like, wait, me? Why are you reaching out to me to create a security awareness course? And then it took me back to what we talked about earlier, that when I was that person going in to interview for that job, I couldn't find anything out there. And then once I got the job, I remember still Googling, like, how do I build out this program? There was nothing out there. So I wanted there to be some kind of resource out there that looked exactly like what I was looking for. And I found it to be incredibly rewarding, not only for the people hopefully that get to watch it, but also for me, because it's allowed me to interact with people that I maybe wouldn't have. It's allowed me to get feedback from people. I actually, a good example of that is a few years ago, I was interviewing individuals and they're like, I knew you from LinkedIn and I wanted to come work for you because of that.
Wow.
And so I thought that was amazing.
Cool.
And then from that, I've been able to create other courses. And I just think that it's a really great way to kind of put your name and your voice and your spin on things out there so that people have resources to learn more. And I definitely want to see more people getting into the security field, no matter what capacity it is.
Absolutely. It's super encouraging to see people with education backgrounds coming in. And I mean, again, you're the trailblazer for that as well. If somebody's out there, and they should go to your LinkedIn learning videos and learn how to do it. But so maybe beyond the fact that you've already put all that effort into, do you have some encouragement for people who think, well, maybe I don't know enough about cyber. I'm a great educator, but they've got this head trash that maybe it's not for them?
Yes, I think some of the best people that I've hired to work for me did not come from a security or IT background. I hired someone that was a nursing student. I hired someone that came directly from the military that did not do anything that was related to IT or security in there. I hired another educator. I hired someone that came from insurance. I honestly, I find that if I hire people that are just like me or have the same background as me, we're going to stifle a lot of innovation that someone that's different than me could bring into the program. I really like to have teams that are incredibly diverse and bring different backgrounds, so that maybe I've been in this so long and I think what I'm doing is the way it should be done, but having that outsider's perspective coming in, it's kind of like being able to reach out to your employees and say, would this make sense to you? Does it work for you? Because they're able to bring that perspective in. And a lot of times they've done something in a different company or in a different field that worked, that maybe we can bring into the culture awareness and training space. So that's, I think, when you're hiring, look for people with those backgrounds and you will be pleasantly surprised.
Well, I got another one. Oh, by the way, did you hear that, everybody? Just go do the thing. You're fine. You're going to be fine. Get in there. We need you desperately. The culture side of this conversation, let's do the other elephant in the room, which is, man, that C-suite. Come on, God, let's do this.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the cultural side of it, and you know that part of your responsibility is fostering a culture at the highest points of leadership, can you maybe riff on those experiences?
Yes, I definitely think when it comes to the C-suite, a white glove approach is the best approach. I think taking them out of the generalized awareness realm and saying, these are the risks that you're facing, and let's tailor it to you. And what can we do to make sure that you understand that you're not untouchable, you're an incredibly high risk, and this is what we need you to do to play your role. And beyond just playing their role, we also need you to model the good behavior and support our program, because if they hear you talking about it, they know your experiences with things, and you're talking about that, let's say at a town hall or in a team meeting or in a company-wide newsletter, it resonates a little bit more, because they're like, well, if our CEO or our CFO is doing these things, they're reporting emails, they're reporting suspicious activity, then maybe I should too. So I definitely think leverage that level to make sure that they are also modeling those behaviors too.
I'm curious, has there been a more or less effective way to communicate with our C-suite or leadership teams? I know white glove and hands-on, but tabletop war games is one of Adam's,
yes, I love
go-tos. Yeah.
I think
good.
Yes. No, I think that's incredibly impactful. I would say that, or having an external party come in and speak to them sometimes carries a little bit more weight than hearing from the people that are on the team internally. I don't know why that is, but it does seem
it's always that way, isn't it?
I urge you to do this, but we'd rather hear it from someone else. But that's fine. If that's what works, then that's what works, and I'm okay with that. And I found it to be really effective with that. But I do think the tabletop exercises where you're kind of putting them in that scenario, and it's a little bit of like the experiential learning as they're going through it, and giving them not so much like the fear, uncertainty, and doubt with all the bad metrics, and this is what could happen and this is what it could look like, but it is impactful at that level, because when you start talking money and you start talking impact and you start talking all those things, that resonates with that level. So those exercises are incredibly effective at that level.
So the other most difficult role to train is our nerd admins who have all of the power, and bless your heart, this isn't real security. I don't need emotional intelligence. I have admin access. I am root, right? So you mentioned it earlier that's part of the how do you approach that population?
Yes, and I should
chocolate donuts.
What I'm going to say. Historically speaking, I would say when I'm asked the question, what's the most challenging group to work with from a security awareness perspective, I would definitely say that. Not that that's across the board, but in my personal experience. And I think that is because they really want to hear someone that speaks their language and understands how they best like to learn. And when we're talking about things, I'll just say like gamification, for example. Gamification may not be a motivator for Jane Doe over in HR, because she's just like, I just want to do the training and I want to be done with it. But I have found that gamifying a little bit with that group tends to work a little bit more. They are a little bit more excited about, well, I did this better, or I got the better score. And so that's what I found to be effective. But leveraging your subject matter experts that are in that group to kind of train themselves, I have found to be more effective as well, versus me coming in and talking to them. Instead, I can guide them and say, you give me the content, I'll package it up, make it look pretty. This is what I would suggest. And then you go out and do it. We'll support you. We'll help amplify it. We'll communicate about it. But you do it because they want to hear from you. You're their peer. I'm not. So that's where I found with that technical audience, it tends to be more impactful.
Is that typically your approach? It looks from the things we've seen that you've done, role-based training has been a huge impact within your career. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I also do think that it's something that comes with program maturity. I don't necessarily think that it's something that kind of happens organically right off the bat. I think that when you try to do that, you may have a little bit of a miss. So I typically try to take the generalized approach and then iterate over time. And once we've learned the audiences and we know, like, I keep going back to finance, but finance would rather us come in and speak at team meetings, and HR would rather us send computer-based training, and you can tailor those things specifically to that. But not just training, also things like the social engineering simulations, being able to tailor those directly to those audiences. I think that's just kind of organically what happens with those programs is you start with like your generalized audience, and then you move to more of the spearfishing tailored approach. Like, this is what you would actually see if they were targeting you.
So then the idea, I'm going to use general numbers here. I like that you're talking about a journey of maturity. And if your company is just starting their security awareness program, chances are you're not doing customized spearfishing with an a champions program and tabletop war games with the C-suite. You're probably like, how do we get compliant? Right.
Exactly.
And so when you look at that maturity journey, I'm assuming that if you have to start from the very beginning, where you need to generate the buy-in, you need to build the business case, you're looking at a multi-year journey to get that along the way. Can you maybe give some encouragement to people who are just getting started, that there's a light?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's really being able to have that process documented and be able to share with your leadership that while we are here right now, this is where we can get to. And in order to get here, this is the support I need from you. This is the support I need from other areas of the business. This is the timeline of what I think it will take us to get there. And I think that if you have the right leadership in place, they're going to understand, as with any program, not just culture awareness and training, it takes typically like anywhere from 3 to 5 years to get to like program maturity, running on its own. And still, because there's always new risks and always new issues, there's still more to be done, even when you get to that 3 to 5 year mark, to make sure that you are updating your content, staying up to date with the latest risks, making it exciting, and leveraging whatever new is out there that you can to keep people engaged.
But I want to be safe now. I want to be safe now.
Don't we all?
That's right.
That's right.
I think it's so important that we begin to get the rest of the security community to understand this is a nuanced, complex, key role that is just going to continue to grow in importance as the years go by.
Thank you again so much for joining us today, Lauren, on the Security Awareness Show, and make sure to tune in next time.